Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, giant monsters all out attack. Despite probably having one of the worst titles of the entire series, in my personal opinion, this is a great outing for Big G. I think that most of that is owed to the creative team's willingness to experiment with what Godzilla actually has to be about. By this point, Toho had made 25 Godzilla films, and in all of them the G-Man is either a metaphor for nuclear weapons or the saviour of humanity. But GMK finally decides to switch it up, and I personally believe that decision is the reason we get the modern Godzilla films we do today. But first, what's great about this one? So GMK is set in a world that has pretty much forgotten about Godzilla. It's so bad that when Baragon shows up, people think he's Godzilla. Godzilla's like a big dinosaur, dumbasses. Godzilla hasn't shown up since the 1954 film, so very few people actually still believe he exists. Enter Yuri, who's making a not so completely factual documentary about monsters, and her dad, who's a senior military dude. The military plot is pretty standard Godzilla stuff, but Yuri's research for the film gives us a fairly natural way of learning new information about this Godzilla and the other kaiji. But the most important thing is that they're able to keep the film grounded. GMK thrives when it comes to making Godzilla one scary motherfucker, even to the point where he destroys some random hospitalised woman. Jesus, G-Man. There's a bunch of cool touches that make Godzilla more imposing, like shooting from a car, using spotlights, and look how this calendar reacts to Godzilla's footsteps outside. I'd assume this perspective comes from director Shusuke Kaneko, who previously directed a trilogy of what I've heard are fantastic Gamera movies. Gonna do my best to check them out soon. Kaneko clearly understands what I think a major problem with a lot of the Godzilla films is. A lot of them make the humans feel tiny and the monsters feel human-sized, whereas the best ones are able to make the humans feel normal-sized and the monsters feel huge. It also helps that Godzilla here is a proper bad boy. He's downright evil, like I said, hospitalised woman. Everyone always talks about his new design with the ghostly white eyes and the extra long fangs, but this redesign is because of this version's backstory. This Godzilla is an embodiment of the lives lost because of Japan in World War II, and he's here to make sure that Japan doesn't forget that. And with Godzilla being the bad guy, that calls for some heroes, some guardian monsters of the universe, if you will. First we've got Baragon, who you gotta love. He's such a good boy, but unfortunately gets absolutely demolished by Godzilla in a ridiculously unfair 1v1. Baragon is great though. Some characters in the film actually know this as well, with this girl posing for a photo with him in the background before they get the hell out of there. Mothra and Ghidorah also get involved in the final battle, and the fight is fun, but they're both a bit overshadowed by our boy Baragon. So overall we get this super cool, pretty scary Godzilla who's able to feel threatening throughout the entire film. But the important thing about GMK is how it reinvents Godzilla and what he's all about. The fact that this works is why Shin Godzilla is able to be a political satire about the failings of the Japanese government, and why -1 can use Godzilla to tell a heavy human drama about PTSD and survivor's guilt. In fact, -1 owes a fair amount of its DNA to GMK, from the way the atomic breath works, right down to its final shot. And this makes sense, because GMK is one of Yamazaki's favourite Godzilla movies, and he's the -1 director. Back in 2001, GMK was the first step on a path to what Godzilla could become, and even with all the new and exciting takes we're getting today, I believe we're still nowhere near close to the end of that road.